you playing?
Hello, and welcome to What the Bleep Are You Playing? A podcast where we play a game many times bad and tell you why the bleep we played it. I am Button Masher Sean. This is Combo King Thomas and Quarter Circle Back Mason. And today, we're doing an interlude episode. Top 5 characters we would like to see in an arcade fighting game.
Way to call yourself out there, Sean, as a button masher.
Oh, I'm 100% a button masher. 100%. You've played fighting games against me.
That's right, I have. That's absolutely true. At least you can admit it.
I would have gone with projectile spam Mason as well.
That's true. Well, so peek behind the curtain here as I was trying to figure out the names. The first name I came up was Quarter Circle Back, and I was like, oh, that's so good. That would be a great ending one, so I'm going to go with that one as Mason's, and so I reverse engineered it.
Fair enough.
So today we're doing a top 5 list, and we are going to do characters that we would like to see in an arcade-style fighting game.
Which basically means there might be characters on this list who have been in platform fighters. I know one of mine has been in a platform
We are not counting Smash Bros, Nicktoons Ultimate, or any of those PlayStation All-Stars, any of those platform fighters. We are talking about traditional arcade. You go in, you put a couple of quarters, you face down, and you fight type of style fighting games.
And there are several different types of those kind of fighting games. You know, there's explicitly 2D like Street Fighter. There's 2D with 3D graphics like modern Mortal Kombat. There's 3D like Tekken. I personally have it to where I have each one in the game type I'd want to see them in. But that's just me. But yes, all those kind of things apply.
Yeah, I think approaching this list, we had to kind of, unlike some of the other lists, we really did kind of set a little bit more rule over all of us to kind of like make sure we had exactly what we were doing, so nobody...
This is probably the list that we've done with the most limitations.
Yeah.
The most rules. And even then, it's not really that bad.
We also initially, when we started this list, it was going to be video game characters, and then Thomas asked about non-video game characters, and the realization goes, well, Mortal Kombat is just 80s action movie characters at this point, so why not include all of this?
Open the floodgates at this point.
So we made it to any character in a fighting game. So I'll start off the list here. We'll do something different, and I'll be the first one to start off with, and I'll give you kind of my process here. I initially started with, okay, I really, really, really want Final Fantasy characters. Oh, that's right. Dissidia exists.
Yeah, you're going to have to go outside of your comfort zone.
I know. And
Step
so
outside, it's Kingdom Hearts. Mother.
That's
Dissidia,
just adjacent to your comfort zone.
and I had to do a tough debate and put on myself, do I count Dissidia? It's a fighting game, but do I count it as an arcade fighting game? And I eventually decided, even though it doesn't have a lot of the traditional arcade things, it is a very RPG fighter. I still decided to count it. So immediately I disqualified something that I would take a lot of things out of. A lot of characters that I would play and want in fighting games out. Which then I immediately go, who do I want on my list now?
All 5 of mine are gone.
Mine is a little out there in points, and I think for a good thing. So I'll just lead off with my number 5. There's a franchise I really, really like that doesn't necessarily need to be a fighting game franchise, but God, I feel like in the 90s, when everything was getting turned into fighting games for a bit, you had Jurassic Park Fighter, you had Godzilla Fighters, you had X-Men fighting games, you had, Star Wars, Masters of Terrascasi. But you know what one franchise hasn't gotten a fighting game that I think needs one?
Do tell.
Star Trek. Specifically, I want OG Star Trek because the fights are hilarious in that. And I want Captain Kirk in a fighting game.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
actually be very down for that.
I want Captain Kirk because his signature OG go-to move is his hands above his head, and he's coming down and with fists attacking them. He always hits people in the back with that. The silliness of OG Star Trek is that its action is just, it's a nature of the times and how much they could spend on some of the things. So part of me would love to have kind of like a real traditional 2D fighting game where you got to fight Star Trek characters against each other. No phasers, they're not getting their things. They're just OG fisticuffs, man to man, and is it kind of dumb? Would anyone besides me in the universe buy this game? Maybe. I don't know. But I would like to see it. But I would also be okay with something like Captain Kirk showing up and say Tekken or something like that randomly, where he's, out of his element, but he's a man from hundreds of years in the future. And there's weird, silly ways you could make him a DLC character in that sort of franchises.
So the thing that makes me go, huh. Now this is coming from someone who doesn't really know a whole lot of Star Trek, but from what I understand, their whole thing is like trying not to fight. Right?
You realize how many fights Kirk gets into.
Kirk in an average 40-minute episode messes something up, almost causes war to happen, makes love to a woman, and fights someone. And then we repeat it next time.
Isn't that just Space James Bond?
Yes.
I think Kirk's my favorite captain.
Kirk is, and that's why specifically he would be the captain. No, I'm not going to see like Captain Picard fighting people or things like that. Although,
see, maybe that's because
some
I
of
was
the later
thinking
ones
about
would.
Next Generation. Was more the non-confrontation.
See, in Next Generation, it would be Riker who is definitely doing the fighting, a lot of it. Riker and Worf. But I think I would enjoy it. Is it a dumb idea? Would it make a good game? Probably not. Would it have been a bad 3D game on the PlayStation in the 90s? Yeah. And I kind of want to see that. So, my number 5, Captain Kirk.
I think it would be kind of interesting. Honestly, I can see the idea for a Star Trek fighting game not exactly being similar. It would be like the setup for an episode where, the crew gets beamed down to this gladiator planet and they have to fight each other or fight other people to get out.
Exactly, and you could bring in other species, you could make characters a la what Terras Kasi did, Thok forever.
Bring out the Gorn.
And so
Romulans.
Just different things you could do. And
Borg.
so
I don't know.
I could enjoy it. It's just a silly idea that I think I could really enjoy. And I think that's the spirit of this list is sometimes, have some silly fun because we love weird, silly fighting crossover games.
Oh, and you're going to get a lot of weird and silly in this.
All right.
Trust me on that.
All right, Thomas.
Anyways.
School us on why your fighting list is so great.
Watch my list be the most normal.
It is, 100%.
Cool. So, I kind of knew I was going to have a character with a firearm on here, and that's kind of hard to do in a fighting game.
Yes.
Because they either end up being cheap bitches, or the gun is like, why do you even have it? But there's a certain kind of... I couldn't go... One of my choices, unironically, we just recorded an episode about this guy, was Inspector Tequila.
Wow. What? Yeah.
But then I was like, he's all gun. There wouldn't be anything else. He doesn't punch, he doesn't kick, it's just all gun.
I mean, sometimes when you get really close, you kind of like shove people, but...
Yeah, but that's overall...
Gun usually has to be the special ability for a character for it to really work in most fighting games.
And Inspector Tequila and another character I almost picked, BJ Blazkowicz from Wolfenstein, they're both mostly gun. I mean, BJ is a bit more like, he's a big buff dude, so he can throw down, but overall, he usually uses guns. And there's another character who also usually uses guns, but I think you could alter that in a way so that the gun is a special move. And each use of it is a different special move. Because, like I said earlier, I based each character in what fighting game I would want to see them in. And this character I think would be a great DLC character in Injustice. Because Injustice has that special move.
Mm-hmm.
And each time you press that special move button, I would change the bullet of Judge Dredd's gun.
This is Judge Dredd. In case some people have forgotten, this block operates under the same rules as the rest of the city.
I would
How
love to
has
see Dredd.
that not happened yet?
Yeah, so the minute I thought of that, I was like, oh, it's Dredd. Dredd has to be the one who...
Yeah.
Just because... yeah, Dredd is... As soon as I thought of that, I'm like, oh, he has
That's
to be in
brilliant.
there.
How has that not happened yet?
Judge Dredd, again, one, he does throw down. It's not like majorly, he is mostly a gun guy, but there is a
He
lot
will
of time.
absolutely get in a hand-to-hand brawl.
Yeah,
if
he
needs
will
to.
absolutely brawl. And again, I just think, especially in an Injustice game where each press of the button, you put a different bullet on. Like, you know, maybe you start off and it's just like a 3-burst, like Stryker in Mortal Kombat 9. But then you press the button and it's like hot shot or spread shot or something like that. Taser shot, something like that.
Now the important question of this is it Stallone
It's Karl
Dredd
Urban.
or is it Karl Urban Dredd?
It's absolutely
it's Karl Urban Dredd.
Look,
Gotcha.
Stallone's Dread would end up in Mortal Kombat because they need more 80s and 90s guys.
They already have Rambo.
It
We
would
need
be-
Stallone v. Stallone.
So it'd be Karl Urban Dredd is what we're saying.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, specifically, I would do kind of my own version of Dredd, kind of like
Kind of comic-based.
kind of more comic based, but specifically, if I have to pick one, it would be Karl Urban's Dredd.
Yeah, I know a lot of people aren't big on the Stallone Dredd, so
It's because it's not Judge Dredd.
Yeah, it's
From the comics.
It's probably I haven't actually watched it, surprisingly for me, the bad action movie guy, but I'm sure it's a fine enough movie. It just is not a good Judge Dredd
Yes.
adaptation.
That's exactly what it is.
Meanwhile, Karl Urban's Dredd is. So,
fair enough then.
but yes, my number 5, Judge Dredd.
I love it. I love it. That's an awesome one. All right, Mason. What do you got for number 5?
So I think we can all agree that it's a real shame when video game companies have characters that they just refuse to ever use. Looking at you, Nintendo.
Who's Nintendo not using?
Everyone.
Oh, okay.
Looking at you, Sega. Also, I think Sega's probably worse than Nintendo, but they're both bad at it. But,
Where's my Echo the Dolphin fighting game? Win, Echo Fighters.
So, and personally, I think crossover fighters could be perfect ways to reintroduce older characters to a newer audience. My first character hasn't been in an original title in her franchise since 2005, and it hasn't had a game period since 2010. And I think now is the perfect time to reintroduce this character in a fighting game, and that is Joanna Dark from Perfect Dark.
I can see
A series that I'm just recently getting into, despite, as I said earlier, a new game not existing for over 10 years. But
I love that choice.
I think she'd be perfect for a fighting game,
Yeah.
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 I can see it.
especially like well, since she's a rare character, she would end up in Killer Instinct. That'd be
Yes.
the obvious choice, and I think that would really work, or something like Injustice or Mortal Kombat. I think would also work for her really well.
No, that's a good character. That's a good kind of element. Not going to be the same because obviously different type, but kind of like when they added Zero Suit Samus into Smash Bros.
A little bit
of that.
pretty
Like you're
similar.
like
Yeah.
you can have the gun element to it, but also there's a lot of other things
There's
Yeah.
a lot
from
of
it.
that
So
martial arts prowess. You could
Yeah.
use a ton of her gadgets.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
you know, or if you want to kind of like a little bit of Nina Williams from Tekken, you could easily take some of
Yes.
that. So
Yes.
Nina Williams and
Or
Tekken.
Jill Valentine in Marvel versus
Yeah.
Capcom.
I like that.
Very, very similar to like that. So yeah, I think, and I think not only is she like a really great character, but like I said, she hasn't been used in anything for over a decade at this point, and there have been talks of
that there's a Perfect Dark.
that there's a reboot happening.
Mm-hmm.
But the last we heard about that was 3 years ago, and they haven't really said anything about it since.
I'd just
So,
take Perfect Dark dropped on the Switch store, but you know.
It's on Game Pass.
I know.
Both of them, Perfect Dark and Perfect Dark Zero.
I know.
Actually, no, wait, no. I think only Zero is on Game Pass, but you can buy the original.
I think the
Perfect
original
Dark.
Perfect Dark's on that rare replay thing too. So.
It is.
Well,
And that's a whole other.
that's our
thing,
first
but, yeah.
first run through on fives, and honestly, all of us kind of went with people who are known for having weapons, but also can do
hand-to-hand
hand-to-hand. So
combat,
that's pretty
yeah.
cool. I'm about to go completely a different direction here. So when I was thinking again of fighting games, and I was going back to like when studios really spent time thinking through actors and characters and things that just deserved fighting games around them. I'm thinking like Shaq Fu. I know it wasn't a fighting game, but Michael Jackson's Moonwalker.
Yeah,
things like that, where they found a famous person and just built a game around it.
Yes.
And then we just happened to recently watch the Summer Game Fest, and there's an actor that I think should be in video games more often. And also thinking of something like Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I want a Nick Cage fighting game where you just fight all of Nick Cage characters.
You listen to me. You're Nick fucking... Whoa, Cage!
I want a Nick Cage fighting game. You can even just call it something like Nick Cage the Fighters or something like that.
Cage match.
Cage match. Oh my god. Cage match is the perfect name. That is the perfect name. Can you imagine if you've got, Face Off, Con Air, Ghost Rider, National Treasure, Drive Angry. I don't care. Every Nick Cage movie and character needs to have a fighting game character. Moonstruck. He can be from Moonstruck as well. Raising Arizona. I don't care. All of the Nick Cages need to be in one one
I would
game.
also take it if it was like Shaq Fu and Nick Cage, just the actor.
That's the other
gets
possibility.
Transported to like an alternate dimension where he's got to fight cat girls and slime people and whatever.
I would
But
totally
it's
take
Nick
that as
Cage.
well.
Okay, but you didn't say your one yet. Are you just saying all of them, or
Just
have you
Nick
picked
Cage.
Just Nick Cage.
Nick Cage. My choice is Nick Cage.
All right, fair enough.
I don't care how. Yeah. So this was
Fair enough.
This was because I didn't want to just necessarily settle on it, but like also because like things like Shaquille O'Neal and Michael Jackson. I just want the actor to be in a fighting game, and it could be Shaq Fu-esque. It could be one where Nick Cage is teleported into a land and he has to do martial arts, and
It's like it's like the fucking Matrix. He gets transported in and just all of a sudden is a martial arts badass.
Nick Cage saying, "Guys, I know Kung Fu would be amazing." So yeah, don't need to say a whole lot else beside, yeah, I think Nick Cage would be the perfect fighting game character, and you can put him in any fighting game you want. I want kind of like a Super Nintendo-esque, 16-bit-esque fighting game. I think would be my favorite, but
with the bit crushed.
yeah.
Bits
But you
of
could put him in
dialogue.
any fighting game. Look, if you want to put Nick Cage in Soul Calibur, I don't care. Give him a sword. Nick Cage can break the barriers.
It'd be his the. Oh no! Wait, no, that was somebody else. Never mind.
He is character in Season of the Witch.
I was
Was
gonna
that
say.
him?
Yes. That was
Okay.
I was gonna say Sorcerer's Apprentice.
I was thinking of that movie, but for some reason I thought somebody else was in it.
No, that's him.
That's definitely him. But yeah, that's kind of one of my out of left field ones. I just want Nick Cage in a fighting game. All right, Thomas, what's your number 4?
So I go from a live action cartoon to just cartoons. I think we all
That
like
checks
good,
out.
I think we all like a good cartoon.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of characters who are in animation, cartoons, and whatever, that I think would be good in fighting games, but not exactly who I'd pick. Just a few run-throughs. Jenny/XJ9 from My Life as a Teenage Robot, I think would be a good pick. I think she would be a fun character to play as in a fighting game. Cuphead, I think would be kind of a fun character.
Yeah.
I would also enjoy Puss in Boots,
Yeah.
but
Well, he was already kind of in a fighting game.
that's Super Slam.
Yeah.
That's kind of its own cup of tea. That's a Power Stone ripoff of anything. But then I realized I kind of went back to Cuphead, but I'm like, no. If I need to use a cartoon character, I need to go back to the old times, to the Rubber Hose era. And at first I was like, well, I'll do a Looney Tunes character. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, I just want a Looney Tunes fighting game. Just a fighting game with all the Looney Tunes in it.
Yes.
So I put that in my honorable mentions. So I went with the character who's like, who's a character that I would love from the old cartoons, but be perfect in a fighting game solo. And I went with Popeye the Sailor Man.
I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. Popeye the Sailor Man. I'm drunk to the finish because I eat the finish. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man.
Not gonna lie, I was trying to think of what you were about to say, and it
I
wasn't until right before you said it that I thought Popeye, but the whole time I was thinking, holy shit, is he gonna say Betty Boop?
Felix the Cat.
Felix.
No, but
Felix the Cat would be overpowered as hell in a fighting game.
Popeye, oh my gosh, in a fighting game. I'm here for it.
yeah. And
That would be
admittedly, you
really-
could argue he's already in there because Luke's Popeye arms in Street Fighter 6. But no, I mean like proper Popeye the Sailor Man. Like, you know, I have him styled like Street Fighter, so I imagine he's a Street Fighter guest character. But also just a old cartoon fighting game, like a bunch of those public domain old cartoon characters.
Yeah.
But in a fighting game, and I think it'd be great.
God, imagine classic animated Popeye fighting against Max Fleischer's Superman. That would
Yeah.
be beautiful.
If they destroy the planet.
Considering the attempts to make Popeye in a video game is what led to Donkey Kong being a game,
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
it would be really
right.
fun to see Popeye in a game. Win Popeye and Smash so Donkey Kong and Popeye can fight.
Yeah. And admittedly, I do also kind of take from Street Fighter because there is a character in Street Fighter 6 named Jamie, who's the drunken boxer, basically. He has a move dedicated to drinking. Do that with Popeye, but he has a spinach. So,
I'm fully down for a Popeye
yeah.
fighting game.
and
That's fantastic.
plus, I'm just imagining his cinematic super, but he makes the muscle, and you know how in the cartoon it's like a different thing every time.
Yeah.
Again, every time you do it, it's like a random assortment. So every time he does his super, his theme starts and he does the muscle, and it's just a random character, like from the game.
I love it. I love it.
You could use his pipe as like his projectile, his smoke.
I
And again, I honestly have a big soft spot for a lot of these old cartoon characters, and Popeye is up there.
Same.
So I would adore Popeye in a fighting game.
That would be awesome.
I love it. I love it. All right, Mason.
Definitely wasn't expecting it.
What's your number 4?
My number 4. Okay. In my opinion, you can't possibly have a fighting game roster without some characters that make you go, what the fuck? Whether it's Earthworm Jim in Clay Fighter 63.5, Hornet from Fighters Megamix, or Bad Box Art Mega Man from Street Fighter Cross Tekken, or even movie characters like Rambo and RoboCop from the Mortal Kombat games. For me, however, there would be no bigger what the fuck character for a fighting game than Dominic Toretto.
Thing about street fights, the street always wins.
Yeah, kind of saw something like that coming.
That would be the biggest what the fuck moment in a fighting
Is
game.
he wielding the axes from
Yes,
7?
yes, he's got the comically large wrench.
No, it's like Mortal Kombat X, where there's variations, and in one of the variations, he has the axes.
I'm now
Yes.
thinking of Dominic Toretto in like a Japanese anime style thing that suddenly the cars turn into mechs that he's piloting.
No, every other car turns into a mech, but he takes them all
He
out
fights
just with
the
his
mechs.
charger.
Jeez. I was thinking more like, kind of like Injustice style, the car is used as the special.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And like
the-
his introduction thing is him power sliding the car and then casually walking out of it.
Which button allows him to use his family power?
it's
and
like Phoenix. It's like
Is his celebration absolutely pounding a Corona?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
and then he makes out with Michelle Rodriguez.
Yes.
Fantastic, Mason. Fantastic. I love it.
Your reaction to me saying that might be one of my favorite things that has ever happened during any recording session.
All right. I'm about to go very different from that. Anyone that's listened to this podcast, you know that we have a weird affinity for brands.
Yeah.
Whether that's M&M's or the Sneak King. You know, we have enjoyed weird brands and in video games. Well, I think on the Sneak King episode, I mentioned how I had this baseball game with all the cereal mascots on it. The General Mills cereal mascots. And that got me thinking,
That's dangerous.
I want those mascots in a fighting game. Specifically, I want the Trix Rabbit
Silly rabbit, tricks are for kids.
in a fighting game.
That was my first thought. That is not who I would pick if I had to pick a cereal mascot, but
I mean, like, there's a lot of them, like, I thought it through it, but something about the way that Trix, it's kind of that same thing like Bugs Bunny is in a lot of it, but, like, he moves around, and what if, it doesn't have to be a dark, like, and scary, like, your evil fighting game, but what if the Trix Rabbit snapped a little bit? What if he's tired of not getting his tricks?
Jeez.
But I think there's a lot of weird combos you can do with Trix Rabbit. So, for example, in the baseball game, he was, like, not bendable, but, like, he moved a lot and he threw crazy pitches because he was the pitcher. Mm-hmm. I would like to see him do weird and crazy things like that, but in a fighting game. And, maybe he's punching, the Lucky Charms. It's got maybe, Cookie Crisp dog is running around. Maybe Count Chocula's in there, or
Tony the Tiger's the final boss.
See, that's Kellogg's, so
Oh, yeah. That's
Okay,
right.
you act like I know cereal mascots.
that's fair. But if you got crossing over all of them, but yeah, there's specifically the General Mills were the one that I knew. But yeah, like if you had Kellogg's, fighting Tony the Tiger.
But yeah, the Trix Rabbit beating the shit out of Lucky, Count Chocula just doing
The bee from Honey Nut Cheerio.
Yeah, Count Chocula's suit doing a Samoa drop on the bee.
See, when he started talking about brands, I was about to be like, is Sean really going to bring up Pepsi, man?
He was already in one.
Yeah.
Oh, he was?
He was in Fighting Vipers, same one as Hornet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like I said, we have a weird affinity for these things. We played several of the games, and would I absolutely play a game that had the cereal mascots fighting each other? Yes, I would. I kind of want that more of kind of like one of those 2D, 3D hybrid kind of feel is what I'd like. That maybe has some 3D depths, but I really want more of like the cell-shaded look is how I would picture it.
Yeah, I can imagine. You just mod all the Dragon Ball Fighters characters.
Yeah.
But it's the General Mills cereal mascot.
Trix Rabbit flying in and blasting the Kamehameha. Yeah, I'm
Oh,
down.
jeez.
But yeah, there's my list will be a little more normal from this point on.
I think all four of us picked a wild out there. Or three of us, sorry. Of the number.
We're counting the ghost as well.
All three of us picked a weird one for the number 4.
Yeah, and
That's why I got confused.
all right. Thomas, what's your number 3?
So I've had a shocking lack of video game characters on this video game podcast in this list. So my next 2 are going to change that. And I kind of had to get just a couple of my favorite video game characters in here. Just characters that I would love to see in a fighting game. And this is the one where it was like, hey, this character's been in a Smash clone before. But I don't really care. I kind of want to see him in a normal fighting game. And I think of all the utility he has, and specifically I'd want to see him in a Marvel vs. Capcom style fighting game with a bunch of high flying stuff, specifically his sweeping attacks.
Sneak King.
No, but you could give him that title. It's Sly Cooper.
Yeah. I wondered if Sly was going to be on this
I
list.
could see that. Was he? Oh yeah, that's right. He was in
All-Stars.
He was in All-Stars. That's right.
Yes.
I was like, really?
And I would give him something kind of like that, where, he's got all of those abilities, but, his role, all the moves are just faster. He uses his cane more vividly.
I could imagine you could use the cane to pull in, you could maybe pull a character in before doing a move.
Yeah, I would like that if that was also his super, Like, they always do cinematic supers these days, so I would kind of like it if, to begin he pulls you in, and maybe it's in the shadows where he can use his sneaking abilities to really just take you down.
Yeah. Be cool. I mean, more
would be
Sly,
really
more Sly Cooper stuff would always be cool. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I'm in agony.
I'm in pain.
I feel like he'd be better in like you said, a Marvel vs. Capcom type thing, more than like a Killer Instinct or like a Street Fighter where he would kind of be like hyper realistic. I couldn't see that working.
Yeah, he would really work in a Marvel vs.
That's what
Capcom
I'm saying,
type.
like Marvel vs. Capcom or even something like Guilty Gear. Like, bring out the cartoonish nature of him. I don't want photorealistic Sly Cooper. That's why, for all the things I bitch about that we don't get Sly stuff, I'm very glad that Sly Cooper movie got canceled. Because if that was the art style they were going for, I really didn't want it.
Maybe if like they did PlayStation All Stars, but as a traditional
Yeah,
fighting
but
game
as a
type of
2D
thing,
fighting game.
you could have like a lot of those characters, maybe Marvel vs. Capcom X-esque in it. You know, maybe you have Sly fighting Crash, or
Maybe have the assists, so you're getting your ass beat with Sly, but then you snap your fingers and Ratchet comes out with a big ass gun, or Jack comes out and slides forward with a punch, something like that.
or Kratos comes out with a sword,
Yeah, something like that. But yeah,
or Joel from The Last of Us comes out and shoots him with a gun.
oh, they probably
I-
would.
you know-
They probably would put Joel from The Last of Us on here, and I don't think I'd like that.
No.
But also, I don't care about The Last of Us, so maybe I'm biased.
Yeah.
And suddenly a red dot has now just appeared on Thomas's forehead.
Oh, do it, pussy.
All right, Mason.
All right.
What's that number 3?
Number 3, a little bit.
How do you
different.
follow up Dominic Toretto?
How do you solve a problem like Dominic Toretto? So,
With a car.
fighting games, Mortal Kombat games specifically, are getting more violent every year. That's not a criticism, that's an observation. When the first Mortal Kombat came out, it was one of 3 games that dominated the violence in video games conversation of the mid-90s. We're all familiar with this, I would hope. The second one was Night Trap, but I don't think that would work really well for a fighting game.
Just get one of those guys in the gimp suit. There you go.
I don't really think that would work. The third one, well, I think it's only appropriate that one of the most consistently violent video game characters should be in the most violent video game franchise as a guest star. And that is the Doomslayer from Doom.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's what I as soon as you brought that up, I'm like, okay, it's Doom.
Yeah, like that just
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. Especially the iteration of the Doomslayer that we have now in the more recent Doom games, I think would fit perfectly in like a Killer Instinct, Mortal Kombat type game.
You could do something like forget what it is, but you could do something where like every friggin' attack is a different weapon because he's got so damn many.
He's got so many, and I know a lot of people because Doom is a first person shooter, you'd be like, well, he would just have guns all the time. But in stuff like Doom Eternal, he's got a lot of stuff on his suit that aren't really guns. He's got blades on his arms. He's got the flamethrower on his back, and
He's got a big fuck off lightsaber.
yeah, he's got that. So like he isn't really just a shooting character anymore. So I think with
You can make it work pretty easily.
yeah, absolutely. With all the stuff that he has now in his arsenal that is more melee based, it would absolutely like the chainsaw, for crying out loud.
The amount of people who want a Doom guy in Smash Brothers, me included. But yeah, in a 2D fighting game like Mortal Kombat, especially.
See,
You
I
can
don't
make it work.
See, I don't really see Doom Guy working in Smash Brothers that much, only because of how violent he is And I feel like if you put him in something like Smash, it would just it would feel kind of gimped in a way.
That's fair.
But
Fair.
yeah, that's why I think like a Killer Instinct or
Yeah, that's why we
or
need
more
Steve
specifically
for
Mortal
Minecraft.
Kombat. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so yeah, that I just think Doomslayer and Mortal Kombat or Doomslayer and Killer Instinct is a perfect fit.
So our number 3s, Thomas and I went with lighthearted and fun characters, and Mason was like the murderer.
I went with the guy who kills every single demon in an afternoon.
And then strangles their mother.
Yes.
So, number 2 here.
The number 2 spot.
I lied to y'all.
No, here it comes. I knew he was gonna figure out some way to slide in a Final Fantasy character.
So
It's like there's no way he's letting that be a limitation.
I did let that be a limitation.
And then
I let every character that's in Dissidia be a limitation.
Yeah.
But there is a modern
there's
game.
your loophole.
There's a modern game that came out that doesn't have one, that has introduced one of my all-time favorite characters.
There's your loophole.
And that is Jack Garland from Final Fantasy Origin Strangers in Paradise.
Just as you have endured within this dimension, so to my will shall remain. You will never be safe, so long as...
Shut the fuck up.
There it is.
No, you
I
see.
knew there was a way.
Now, here's my thought process on it. Jack can be any class, any weapon, anything. He would be perfect in a Soul Calibur type game. And already Stranger of Paradise combines worlds and allows places to connect. It would be a very easy to have him drop into a Soul Calibur type game.
What are you talking about? You gotta put him in Tekken so he can be with his buddy Noctis.
See, here's the thing. He also does have Monk and Healess abilities, so you could have fist-to-fist job class. You could put him in Tekken if you wanted to, or Street Fighter, or he's hyper violent if you want to put him in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
That'd be very funny.
He already rips spines out of things in that game, and he has no problem saying to a character, "Fuck you." And that's one of the reasons I love Jack Garland, is he is unashamedly goofy. But also in a way that, like, yeah, I don't need the villain to monologue to me. I don't fucking care.
Right.
And so I would love to see him in a fighting game, especially a traditional type fighting.
Shao, he's in Mortal Kombat. Shao Kahn goes to taunt him. He taunts him first, like, "Hey, motherfucker."
He would play some 2000-esque heavy metal rock music and walk out on him, and I'd love it.
Plays the Limp Bizkit while Shao Kahn's corpse explodes behind him.
There you go. That'd be
Every
perfect.
one of his finishing moves, his
It plays a different early 2000s rock song.
Yeah.
every time.
I'd be into it.
He's walking away to Linkin Park's in the end.
No, what you need to do is pull a Transformers. Like, you know, he gets his ass kicked. He starts walking away. What a knife explosion!
I think he would be perfect for it because he could work in so many different games and genres, and I would love to see him in a fighting game. So that's my number 2, Jack Garland.
I genuinely thought you were gonna pick the dude who's starring in Final Fantasy 16. Like, game's not even out.
Not yet. Look, Clive could show up at some point on this list in the future, but right now, no, he is not on this list.
So you're saying if we waited until that game came out, that would,
Yeah, in a couple of weeks.
there would have been 2 Final Fantasy.
Well,
characters.
remember, I usually try to keep it to one franchise as
Fair
best I
enough.
can.
Fair enough.
So they'd both be in the number 2 slot.
Exactly. All right, Thomas. What's your number 2?
Once again, I'm going kind of polar opposite of Sean. So you might remember back in my top 5 video game characters list, way back in the first season of this podcast.
I do.
There are a couple characters on that list that have been in fighting games, but one specifically hasn't. And that one is one that I think would fit perfectly into Skullgirls because of the 2D animation of that game and how gorgeously 2D animated it is. And it's all about them girls Shantae.
Yes.
I think Shantae would fit wonderfully into Skullgirls.
Okay.
And it's primarily because it's kind of an odd thing to adapt Shantae into a fighting game because her main attack in the games is her hair. Like, she whips her hair.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that you could add that as, like, the special move. Maybe she does have a normal fisticuff combo. Or, again, why I bring up Skullgirls, there's a character named Fila whose hair is literally, like, alive and attacks people. So I think that you could do something very similar with Shantae. You know, all of her combo attacks have her hair being used. Maybe occasionally getting a punch and a kick in there, but it's mostly her hair. And then you can also use her magic, her fireballs, her thunder strikes, things like that.
It reminds me kind of like, I can't remember her name, but that one character from ARMS. That had
Twintel or whatever the hell
something
her name
like
was.
that, yeah.
Yeah, something like that, but again, just primarily 2D fighter. Again, I love Shantae as a character, so I think having her interact with a whole bunch of these characters, especially because Shantae, although she does have a bit of an edge, is ultimately a more light character, and the world of Skullgirls is fucking bleak, so it'd be very funny to have these kind of miserable characters, and then Shantae's like, bro, lighten the fuck up, and then she kicks their ass. Like, and again, I do love Shantae as a character. So her being in that game, having all these, her being gorgeously animated like she is in Half Genie Hero, but in a different style, or The Siren's Curse, she's also beautifully animated in that. You know, again, it is from the I think it'd be neat kind of thing. So
I just think it's neat.
Yes, exactly.
No, I like that. I like that selection.
That's very interesting. Not something I would have considered, probably mostly because I haven't really I haven't played any of the Shantae games, but 2D scrollers in general, I didn't really think of like having a fighting game character.
I mean, yeah, but
it would work. It worked very well.
The minute we came up with this list, Sean didn't immediately go, I can't use Final Fantasy characters because of Dissidia. He looked at me and said, you can't use most Sonic characters because of Sonic the Fighters. And I was like, son of a bitch.
This is in fact what happened.
Wow. So at that point, I was like, all right, fucking my top 5.
Like, God damn it, I had a top 5 of nothing but Sonic characters.
And then it was like, ooh, I can do Mega Man. He was in Marvel vs. Capcom.
That's right, he was.
That's why I don't really have an honorable mention, because a lot of mine were like, oh, yeah, that's in a game. Oh, yep. I was like, what about Chris Redfield? Is it? Marvel vs. Capcom. What about? Oh, that's a fighting game. Oh, I like Dragon Ball is all in fighting games. What about? And it's in a.
I could do Phoenix Wright. He's in Marvel vs. Capcom.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
The amount of times I went, oh yeah.
Wait a minute.
We're like, oh, I really want to do Full Metal Alchemist. Oh, that's got 4 fighting games in Japan. Oh,
really?
Yeah.
Wow, that doesn't surprise me.
It's got Japanese.
Wow.
That's the problem with being a weeb.
It's true.
I say
it's also the positive. We get so many fighting games. So many good fighting games.
They're all in Japan. Well, they're happy, at least.
They're coming over more and more now.
Oh, they are?
But yeah.
Well, that's good.
Well, that's good, yeah.
But, all right, Mason. What's that number 2?
All right, my number 2 character. Sometimes a guest character in a fighting game can feel incredibly obvious. I mean, how many people knew for the longest time that Sora and Banjo and Kazooie should have been in Smash Brothers long before they actually showed up in Smash Brothers?
Sora was the most requested one, according to Sakurai.
Exactly. There is one video game character, in my opinion, however, that is so incredibly obvious for a fighting game that it's downright ridiculous that it hasn't happened yet. And that is Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I am surprised it hasn't.
Like,
happened
like
yet.
how is that? Like,
You would think all the franchises that they tried to force Crash Bandicoot in, that one of them
honestly,
would have been a fighting
honestly,
game.
Exactly, and like the crazy thing is that they made a fighting game full of PlayStation characters, and they didn't use the character that they made to sell the PlayStation.
Yeah, that was always a
That's
weird
still,
thing not in
to
All
this-
Stars.
To this day, that's one of the biggest what the fuck.
Yeah.
In like any fighting game. Hey, maybe he's in the same one as Sly Cooper. Maybe he's in that.
There you go. Maybe they both
that
show up
2D
in that one,
PlayStation
yeah.
fighting game.
Yeah, exactly.
He would fit very much for a fighting game, especially maybe Marvel vs. Capcom-esque, like you said with Sly Cooper.
Yeah, especially because I think Crash. I know everybody kind of cringes at like Crash of the Titans and whatever, but he does have melee combat.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Like he can use them fisticuffs. Plus, again, cartoony characters in fighting games are usually always fun. So,
Especially when you stylize it the right way.
exactly. So
And I think a great special move for Crash would be to put him in the alien style mech suit that he gets in Wrath of Cortex.
Okay.
I think that would be really cool. So
Yeah.
it's so incredibly obvious that like I said, it's downright ridiculous that it hasn't happened yet.
yeah. And again, they are putting Crash into so many different genres now.
And
Crash
you know-
Team Rumble's coming out.
And
which
you
is
know what?
Like MOBA.
And
So-
you know what? Since Crash is an Xbox owned thing now, and so is Rare, who makes Killer Instinct, it's not that far off.
Oh.
It could happen.
I don't know if I'd like that though. I
Nah.
don't want realistic looking Crash. That would haunt my dreams.
Look,
No. He'd be the one character that's
He's
incredibly cartoony.
He's the one character that's really cartoony.
So you want bad box art Crash Bandicoot?
Bad box art Crash Bandicoot.
So he just looks like he did in that '90s cartoon that never aired.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
No, they do it. They just do the Crash in the suit. The guy in the suit from the mascot. That's who.
The guy who heckled Nintendo.
Yeah. And his attacks involve like him throwing a megaphone.
That would be really funny.
Oh my goodness.
It'd be a great like alternate costume if Crash ever got into a fighting game.
Yes. I'm surprised that hasn't been an alternate costume in the Crash games.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It hasn't. Damn. Especially Crash 4, that has so many fucking alternate
That is
costumes.
so many costumes.
It's wild.
I do love me some Crash Bandicoot, so
I know-
I would be very happy with that.
I know we've mentioned it before, especially doing a Crash Bandicoot episode, but that's a franchise that just desperately needs a really big revival. Not that there haven't been good things in it, in the Insane Trilogy, Crash 4, but it feels like it needs
And
something.
hopefully Team Rumble.
Yeah, and hopefully Team Rumble. We'll see how that ends
will
up.
see, yeah.
But
and the CTR remake.
yeah, it really needs just some big new thing, something new. Because that's the thing about all those is they are back to a feeling of the old, and there's nothing wrong. They're great, but man, it just needs something new to move forward, and maybe that is Crash and fighting games.
Right.
Breath of the Crash. Let's go, boys.
Let's go.
I would unironically probably play that. But
So yeah,
but yeah.
Crash Bandicoot. That's my number 2.
Yeah, Crash
Fair
Bandicoot
enough.
in a fighting game, it's absolutely amazing.
I like it.
I do like that idea a lot.
Well, as I mentioned, I really don't have any honorable mentions, and what I've mentioned has gone through what I've done. So I got nothing really to add on that. But if you guys have honorable mentions, go ahead and say a few things here.
All right, Thomas.
I do have a couple. I'm going to try and go through them really quick.
Okay.
There was another character in my number 1 is a big weapons user, similar to Judge Dredd, but melee focused. And there was a character who I thought about putting in a fighting game. I don't think it would work because the lawsuit, but hey, Sora got in a fighting game. So why not another Disney character, Captain Jack Sparrow?
Yeah.
I think that would be pretty solid to have in a fighting game.
That's one of mine too. One of my
One of your
mentions. Yeah.
Captain Jack
damn
would
it.
be
Do you want to say anything on him?
I
while
mean,
you're here?
No, you pretty much nailed it.
a Disney
Yeah.
fighting game would be kind of cool.
It would be.
I know it wouldn't happen in a million years because he's a Disney character, but I think it'd be really funny to see him in like a Killer Instinct or a Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Honestly, a long time ago, like when I was like 13, I actually did pull out like how Captain Jack Sparrow would look like in Mortal Kombat 9 or whatever.
I
Like his-
made Captain Jack Sparrow in Soul Calibur 3, so
Nice.
Oh, fair enough. But yeah,
using Cervantes' style.
Nice.
fair enough. But yeah, Jack Sparrow I think would be really fun.
Yeah.
I couldn't quite decide between these two actors. Similar to Sean, these two actors are characters I want in fighting games. I just didn't know which characters to pick specifically, so I was like, screw it. Every Jean-Claude Van Damme and Jet Li character,
Yeah.
I think would fit perfectly in a fighting game.
The least surprising thing you've said this whole podcast.
Yeah. Plus, my dream kind of came true because Jean-Claude Van Damme is going to be a skin in Mortal Kombat 1 with Johnny Cage.
Yeah. that's
So
right.
I'm like, well, okay.
and
You
he's
getting that.
actually going to be doing lines in that.
he's actually going to
So
be
you're kind of
doing
getting
some
that
stuff.
one, actually.
Yeah. Now all I need is another skin, and it's Jet Li. That's what I need.
That'll be Liu Kang probably.
Yeah, maybe. Liu Kang's more of a Bruce Lee type, but yeah.
Yeah.
You're just going to wait for the Expendables fighting game.
Look, I don't ironically play that shit too. Damn, I want that now. Just NetherRealm. Fuck Mortal Kombat. All right, you made enough Mortal Kombats. Make the '80s fighting game. We know you all want to. I brought up that I would want a Looney Tunes fighting game with all the Looney Tunes. Another franchise that I'm obsessed with that I would love to see a fighting game of because I think it would be fucking hilarious. The Muppets.
Yes. We've talked about it before.
Yeah,
right?
I think off mic we've talked about it before, but I think a Muppets fighting game would be fucking hilarious.
That would be so
Instead of them
Especially-
fainting, is like the puppet falling down and like a hand coming in, like picking them up. And
Yeah, like they get dragged out. But yeah, I think, especially because.
I mean, Miss Piggy would be OP, but
Yeah, Miss Piggy would be extremely OP. No, you know what? You know what you need to do is make it a 3D fighting game and have just all the ragdolls because they're puppets.
No, I was thinking something even funnier is make it 2D and then like right at the bottom of the screen you can see their arms and their backs.
yes.
They use like the sticks on their arms to their advantage, like they hit people.
Yeah.
Are the Sesame Street characters DLC in this?
No, they're in the
They're in the
base
main
roster.
game. You're immediately starting with Big Bird,
I'm starting with Big Bird. I'm starting with the Count. I'm getting Elmo in that son of a bitch.
Snuffleupagus.
Exactly. He and Miss Piggy are the two most OP characters.
1, 2. That's 2 ass kickings I gave you.
That's 2 concussions.
The Grouch.
Honestly,
The Grouch is the judge.
I was gonna say Oscar would be the judge, and he'd ridicule you no matter what.
Yep.
Like if you win, he'd ridicule you.
Oscar and Simon Waldorf are sitting out there.
Yes, exactly. They're the critics.
Yes.
Oh, that'd be really funny.
All right, folks. Wait until the inevitable pitching a Muppets fighting game episode.
I think we just kind of did.
Yeah, I think we already did that.
I'm talking full roster and everything.
Here is 4 hours on why we want a Muppet fighting game.
And my last honorable mention, this character went back and forth with my number 1 a lot. But in the end, I went with my number 1, so I went with another character who would fit in a similar environment. So you may be able to figure out my number 1 if I say this. I doubt it, but if you do, I'm impressed. And my honorable mentions is Gandalf.
I did for a minute think about a couple of with Gandalf simply because I was thinking about the "You shall not pass" scene.
Yeah.
And so Gandalf was something that briefly came on my mind, but I was like, I don't know if I'd want him in a fighting game 100%.
See, I was trying to think of more fantasy characters, which is why I went, oh, hey, Geralt would be perfect. Wait a minute, he's in Soul Calibur.
Gandalf in a Soul Calibur game actually would be kind of fun because he does wield sword and he does.
Gandalf in a Soul Calibur game I think would be great.
You could give him limited magic sort of things that knock people off, kind of in the same way that they utilize his Link's different weapons.
Yeah, exactly. I genuinely think Gandalf would be great in a Soul Calibur game. Which, spoilers, my number 1 is also in a Soul Calibur style is what I'd do. But also, I could see Gandalf in like another kind of fighting game, like maybe a Street Fighter, only because of the cinematic super would be the you shall not pass, bam.
Bam.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
I love Gandalf. Fucking love Gandalf. Yeah.
All right, Mason. What's the honorable mentions you got?
All right, so I don't have as many honorable mentions as I usually do. I know I've gone like the last couple of lists. I feel like I've gone really long with the honorable mentions, so I'm going to try to keep it briefer this time. But I had this one on the list, and the only reason I didn't put him in my actual list is because I was like 99% sure Sean was going to talk about this character, and he hasn't yet. If he ends up talking about this character, I'm going to sound like a real asshole. But, so, a lot of, in the recent Marvel vs. Capcom, Capcom games, Chris Redfield has been the Resident Evil, rep. And I think it's a shame that, Leon Kennedy hasn't really gotten
I did
any-
think
any
about
fighting
Leon Kennedy for a minute, but Leon Kennedy, while maybe more now with Resident Evil 4, I think you could take the remake of Resident Evil 4 a little more fighting game-esque, but the fun about Leon Kennedy, especially in the original 2 and then 4 before the remake, is he's kind of just bumbling through things. Like,
Yeah.
there's an element of like that, so I don't think he translates as well
but
as Chris Redfield
But
did
at
to
the,
fighting
at the
games.
same time, what's it? The guy from Dead Rising.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the recent Marvel vs. Capcom, so like...
So fun fact about that. It's funny you bring that up in the same context as Leon Kennedy.
Oh?
Leon Kennedy, Frank West was supposed to be Leon Kennedy.
Wow.
It was supposed to have a similar kind of style with using the zombies and everything, but because Dead Rising was something they wanted to be popular, they ended up replacing Leon Kennedy with Frank West.
Wow.
So, ripperoni to Leon Kennedy.
Man, got shafted for Frank West.
And I
And
love
he still
Leon
is.
Kennedy.
And he still is.
If I were to take a Resident Evil character that hasn't been, Ada Wong would be my choice for a fighting game.
Okay.
That's fair.
You know, another one that I was honestly surprised, another franchise that I was honestly surprised hasn't gotten any fighting game representation whatsoever, the Assassin's Creed games.
No,
Ezio was in Soul Calibur.
Yeah,
5.
Oh, he was?
Ezio's in Soul Calibur, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay,
I was like,
well,
oh, yeah.
I didn't pick Ezio, so that's good.
And Altair was in something.
Was he?
Maybe it wasn't a fighting game. He may have been just a skin in something, but yeah.
Okay, well, thankfully
Does anybody remember the Final Fantasy 15 Assassin's Creed crossover event that happened in both games?
No, I don't.
No.
No, I
Yeah,
don't.
where the hub worlds you could go in and they both were crossed over for a little while.
Wow, that's all right then.
Okay then.
So, thankfully, the Assassin's Creed character that I picked, as far as I can tell, hasn't showed up in a fighting game, and it's the protagonist from my favorite Assassin's Creed, Black Flag, Edward Kenway. I think would be fantastic in a fighting
So
game.
again, the Jack Sparrow thing, the
Yes.
pirates.
Yes,
Oh,
exactly.
didn't you know he showed up at No? I'm kidding.
I was gonna say, God,
Apparently, we want a pirate fighting game with this at this point.
honestly,
Just all
that would
all the popular pirates.
So Nick Cage gets dropped into a pirate universe, and that's the
Nick Cage and Jack Sparrow teaming up. What a
That would
fucking
be-
disaster.
That would be weird. So this was another one that I had considered for a what the fuck type. The only reason that I didn't put him on the list is I couldn't really think of anything for a moveset other than kind of sillier versions of basic punches and kicks, and that's Homer Simpson. So he was.
yeah.
Oh, another role we probably should have put at the beginning of this list. Mugen does not count, obviously. So,
Right,
Because
right.
Homer's been a very popular Mugen character.
Yeah.
So I got that, and then this was another one that I couldn't think of any movesets for, but I just think it would be incredibly hilarious to see how they put him in a fighting game, and that's Claptrap from Borderlands. I think it'd be really funny.
There's Mason's honorary Borderlands reference.
I just think
Now, if we get a Portal reference, it will really be
I didn't include
It would really be a top 5
I
of
didn't
Mason's.
put a Portal reference in there. I wasn't thinking.
Shell will be number 1 now.
No, I don't think that would work. Another movie rep kind of similar to Jack Sparrow, Indiana Jones. I think would be really fun as a fighting game character. And then another character that I put in because recently I've been hearing a lot of rumblings of him maybe being included in a Mortal Kombat game, but it doesn't look like that's happening right now, and probably won't, but I really wanted to, and that's Ash Williams. I think would be perfect for Mortal Kombat.
Yep.
Well, he was going to be in Mortal Kombat 11.
100% was, yeah.
Oh, wow.
But they didn't get the rights in time.
Because they were doing the horror before they did the 80s, the action hero stuff. They were doing horror movie characters.
But they ended up not getting the rights, so they went with Joker instead.
And then the last one I had here. I mean, I couldn't talk about fighting games with at least bringing up the best fighter in Canada, Scott Pilgrim. Like, come on, how could I do that? Like, how could I have? How
Are you
could I not
wanting
include it?
movie Scott or comic Scott?
Both, either one, honestly.
I think Comic Scott would be funner to do in like a Marvel vs. Capcom or Guilty. It's fucking Scott Pilgrim and Guilty Gear. Let's go, boys.
Let's go. Okay.
Either one, honestly, I think would
All right.
would be really cool.
Those are definitely some interesting honorable mentions, and I like that we've kind of covered some of the things that we didn't select. But what did we select? What is our number ones? So we covered Gundam earlier this season.
We did.
And on it, while talking about it, we had a revelation of why hasn't there been a Transformers arcade fighting game? And legitimately, as I think here and thought, why hasn't there been? Because there's a character that kind of defines a decade, defines what a lot of people looked at as looked up. I know people who were in the church that when they pictured God, they pictured Optimus Prime. And you know what? The fact that he has not been in a fighting game, or the fact that the Transformers haven't had any fighting game, kind of surprises me. And that's my number one.
We live among its people now, hiding in plain sight, but watching over them in secret, waiting, protecting. I have witnessed their capacity for courage. And though we are worlds apart, like us, there's more to them than meets the eye. I am Optimus Prime, and I send this message to any surviving Autobots taking refuge among the stars. We are here. We are waiting.
Because I really want to see Optimus Prime in a fighting game.
Especially because you could very easily translate that to a story mode.
100%. And even if it's a guest star in a Marvel vs. Capcom style game, or, they make another Gundam fighting game and include a couple Transformers in it, or you do, look, Fortnite figured a way to get Optimus Prime in the game. Why can't we figure out how
to do it in a fighting game? You're absolutely right.
Honest to God, I'm behind the curtain peek here. I'm kind of getting on a Transformers kick right now because I just saw Rise of the Beasts. But I'm kind of glad I didn't put Optimus in it because, well, you did it. But that means I can still gush about it because, yeah, a Transformers fighting game would go hard.
Because Optimus can transform you could transform into vehicles for a move. He has gun, he has sword, he has shield.
He has axe.
He has axe. He has axe. You can have either the Dinobots as actual characters or as add-ons. We've now seen Mortal Kombat 1 gameplay that they're going to have cameos and things like that. If you had a full Transformers game that, the different characters, they're just add-ons to help with extra moves. There's so many ways, and the fact that Transformers hasn't got an arcade fighter just kind of baffles my, Megatron turns into a gun, guys.
Yeah, with specifically, despite the fact that Transformers has kind of gotten fighting games, Optimus Prime hasn't been in them.
Yeah.
Because they're based on Beast Wars.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like somehow your number one both has and hasn't had a fighting game.
Yeah. And that's
kind of
something
so bizarre
that we kind of have seen this season, and unofficial tagline of the season is that crossovers galore, and just not having Transformers in kind of some more than fighting games because it just kind of sits in the shooter realm more often than not, which is fine. There are a lot of good Transformers shooter-based games, third and first person. But man, I kind of want to see Transformers break out into different genres, and fighting game is pretty much at the top there. And I just want to see Optimus Prime kicking some butt.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, if that's popping into Street Fighter and fighting Ryu, I don't care, you know?
We did bring up Fortnite, and in Fortnite, they do literally make an excuse why he's human-sized. They make like my smaller son will hit the gritty for you.
Transformers has been in Marvel Comics.
Mm-hmm. That's how they started.
And that's how they started. So why, like, it would be a perfect Marvel vs. Capcom sort of character to just be in there.
Hasbro fighting game, let's go.
Hasbro fighting game.
Yeah,
Transformers, G.I. Joes.
Transformers versus Gundam. Like, go all out. You know?
There's so many possibilities they could do, and that's why it's my number one. Give me Optimus Prime.
It's a very good
That is a very good number one pick.
And like when I set out on this list, I knew from the beginning who my number one was. I filled in the rest of it, but that from the beginning I knew it's Optimus Prime. There's
Fair
no
enough.
question.
It's a really good pick.
All right, Thomas. Numero uno.
So like I said, it's a lot of fighting games out there, but one that I think arguably started the guest character was, I mean, Earthworm Jim was in Clay Fighters, but no one cares about Clay Fighters. The one that arguably popularized the main character was Soul Calibur. And
Yep.
so I'm thinking like, all right, who's a good sword user? Who's a good like weapons user to put in Soul Calibur? Who, like if I were making Soul Calibur 7, who would I want as the guest character?
Optimus Prime.
Okay, well you already took that, so I can't do that too. But like I said, I had Gandalf, but then I was like, no. Again, I went back and forth with this one for a while, but you know there's other sword characters you could use. But in the end, I went with one that you could do basically any weapon with. And that, in the end, is also kind of a product of the 80s, even though I wouldn't go with his 80s version. It's Conan, the Barbarian.
Between the time when the oceans drank Atlantis and the rise of the sons of Arius, there was an age undreamed of. And unto this, Conan, destined to bear the jeweled crown of Aquilonia upon a troubled brow. It is I, his chronicler, who alone can tell thee of his saga. Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. I could just see a Soul Calibur portal opening up and he is coming to fight for the souls. Link style. Yeah. Oh, yes. I love it.
That's another one that's like, why hasn't that happened yet?
I mean, Conan's just not very popular.
I feel like Mortal Kombat was trying to get the rights as well for that at one point.
That doesn't
feel like that
surprise
was
me.
one because they were deciding on Arnold characters to get in there.
And the Arnold version is the most popular version, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I would personally go with something more like the books, or something where it's like kind of a mix of all the Conans. Because I kind of want the visual of Conan. Like, honestly, the Marvel Comics version of him is pretty perfect. That's the kind of Conan I would go for. But again, if I were to put him in a fighting game, Soul Calibur.
Yeah.
And you could put him in Mortal Kombat because he is very violent, but Kratos was in a Soul Calibur, and I kind of think that is where Conan should be because he does use so many weapons. Kind of his whole gimmick is journeying across the lands, coming across all these different things. He's like Samurai Jack, but he's a barbarian.
Yeah.
So he would be a perfect Soul Calibur character.
Oh man, Samurai Jack would be a good one. No, wait, no, he was in the Cartoon Network.
Yeah, but that was more of a Smash clone.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
But yeah, I'm just imagining, he's a barbarian, obviously, so I'm just imagining his critical art or whatever is, maybe he has a sword and shield or his axes or whatever, but his critical art is he just throws them down and starts beating the shit out of you with his bare hands, because that's what Conan would do.
It would be one because Soul Calibur has, like, things breaking and clothing breaking, and there's thought process that they may even go to the beyond of weapons breaking in the future. that would be cool, a character that you would absolutely want because he could do multiple styles.
Plus you have, he does wear armor, but he's primarily known for just running around like a loincloth, like Tarzan. So there's another one that I could have put on here. I didn't think about that, but anyway. I think Conan would Conan is who my number one is, specifically in Soul Calibur. I think he'd be perfect.
I love it. All right, Mason. Mason, answer us away.
All right, so this was gonna. So I specifically chose to be the last person to say my number one because I thought it was gonna be like this. Real. I thought I was gonna try to recreate the Cats moment, and then this son of a bitch did his. That was basically what I was gonna say. So
I win.
But unlike you, I was able to actually pin down a specific character. So
why would you do that? Nicolas Cage is the character.
So when I started thinking about putting together this list, one thing became absolutely necessary from the beginning. I had to include a Nicolas Cage character. It absolutely had to happen. It was only a question of which one. Not all Nick Cage characters are created equal, and not all of them are fighting game suitable. As much as I'd love to play as Peter Lau from Vampire's Kiss in a fighting game, it wouldn't have worked. I just don't think it would have worked. A couple of names floated around in my head, like Castor Troy from Face Off, Cameron Poe from Con Air, even Spider-Man Noir. But for me, only one character in my mind can capture the magic of Nick Cage while also working perfectly as a fighting game character. And that is Red Miller from Mandy.
Yeah.
That's the one that I think ticks both boxes.
I had Mandy down that, or I was also like, are you going to go with Willy from Willy's Wonderland?
Well, I see.
Yeah.
That one is just there's not enough defining characteristics of that
other
character
than destroying
for me.
machines and
Right.
Yeah.
But
there's not enough Nick Cage.
Yeah, but Red is such a
perfect.
It's such a character, and it's such a Nick Cage character.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine him coming out into the battlefield in Mortal Kombat with the blood all over his face and everything, ready to fight.
Oh, his entrance is he just does a line of fucking coke
That is probably the most Mortal Kombat character of Nick Cage's.
Yes. Absolutely.
So yeah, that's pretty perfect, especially for a Mortal Kombat character.
I did because that was the only character that I think of Red is one of, in my opinion, the quintessential Nick Cage characters.
Mm-hmm.
When you think of Nick Cage and the so-called Cage rage that he's capable of, that movie is a pretty perfect encapsulation of it. And he's also a badass in that movie. He goes on a spree. So he can hold his own. And I think. Being a lumberjack, it would only be appropriate for him to be an axe wielder as well in one of these fighting games, and I just think it would be absolutely perfect.
Plus, he has the beast axe that
Mm-hmm.
he
Yes.
forges, so.
Yeah, his special move would just be going on a rampage and screaming at the other guys with an axe.
I can imagine, his fatality is the end of Mandy, where he just crushes the motherfucker.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I like it.
So that is our top 5 arcade fighters.
It is. So what do you guys think? Who do you think we should have included? Do you have a Nick Cage character that you think should be in a fighting game? Well, you can let us know by dropping an email at bleepyouplaying@gmail.com. That's bleepyouplaying@gmail.com. Let us know, and we'll read it on air. And if you'd like to tell us what to play or what to watch, you can do that by subscribing to our Super Bleephead tier on Patreon. Patreon.com/whatthebleep. That's patreon.com/whatthebleep. Tell us what you want us to play. Tell us what you want us to watch. We'll do it as long as it doesn't break the bank. $15 a month. And we'll be back next time.
Where are those
Cartoons?
Where are those good old-fashioned family values on which we used to rely?
I liked it.